Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us some family here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
And we're back. We just got done with the second half of day 3 of Lost Weekend 7. And our films were I, Daniel Blake, Women Who Kill, 3, and The Lure. So, first we'll talk about I, Daniel Blake, I guess. Everyone's thoughts on that?
I loved I, Daniel Blake. I really enjoyed it. Well, enjoyed is maybe the wrong word, because it is one of those movies where you're just like, when you think you're about as sad and disappointed and frustrated as you can be, shit gets sadder, and it's just more frustrating. But I was so in love with the characters that I kind of just was... I was just in it. I was in it. And I thought it was amazing.
Same here. I really enjoyed it. Excuse me. At least until like the very end.
Aww.
But I mean,
were you disappointed in the ending, or were you just saddened by the ending?
Well, no. I was disappointed that I wasn't saddened because I felt manipulated into trying to make me feel like, okay, this is the worst shit that can happen.
Well, before we get to that moment, what is I, Daniel Blake? It's Ken Loach's new film.
Mm-hmm.
It is about a British carpenter towards the end of middle age, I would say. He's not, a granddad, but he's...
I think he's granddad age. He's put in 40 years of being a craftsman and a blue-collar guy. Mm. And
but he's not 80 years old. He's retired. He should be retired, but he can't afford to be retired. And I'm
guessing he's like in his 60s.
He's suffering from heart problems that his doctors are telling him, you cannot work. If you work, you will kill yourself. Mm-hmm. And the
so he has to go on the dole.
Yeah, he has to go on the dole, but then the dole tells him you don't meet the requirements of health care, so we're not going to pay out on that, so you need to find a job.
Right. And so he's looking for like benefits, like compensation while he can't work.
Yeah.
And it's the Kafka nightmare of bureaucracy. The first 20 to 30 minutes of this movie is just him banging his head up against a wall, or actually a phone service.
Yeah.
Please wait until your party is available and don't go anywhere. Spend the next 2 hours of your life doing nothing just to get answers that are not going to benefit you in any way. And you're going to talk to bureaucrats who have no actual feelings for your plight because all they do is hear terrible life stories day in and day out.
I love how it always came down to someone called a decision maker. Oh, we'll have to go and check with the decision maker, because the title decision maker to me sounds like something straight out of 1984.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did feel like The Trial to me. This felt Franz Kafka. It is a nightmare scenario that he is in, but where the story really takes off is when he encounters another person who is looking to fill out the government's requirements for the dole, and she's new to the area, just out of London. She's got 2 kids, 2 different fathers, and she's in the process of starving to death.
Yeah.
And the government, she doesn't file the proper requirements.
She misses her appointment. So she misses her appointment to get on the dole because she gets lost because she's in a new city, and they will not hear her out. So she's trying to reason with them, and they go, well, you're being unruly, so we're going to kick you out. of the office, even though she's desperate.
Yeah.
Well, and they'll even say they'll refer her to a decision maker for sanctioning. Is that the word that they use?
Yeah,
You'll be sanctioning.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
The film struck a chord with me on multiple levels. The situation and the system and the machine that Daniel Blake is just being pushed through and chewed up in is not too dissimilar from the healthcare system and the benefit system regarding veterans and the states. And the VA, the organization with the VA, for the last couple of years, maybe even before that, but maybe just for me, it's become more prevalent and relevant because of my use of the VA and where I fall in line in that particular machine. But them scenes where he's on hold for like an hour and 45 minutes, that's just some shit you could deal with Comcast.
But I deal with it constantly with Verizon.
Verizon, right?
Not a promo for Verizon,
right? But when you're talking about, the person that I'm waiting for, and the reason why I will sit on hold is not because I got to get HBO because Game of Thrones is coming on in 2 hours, but because I need
Wi-Fi.
Because I need healthcare because I have a medical condition, or I need my benefits because I have a child who needs to be treated by a doctor, and I can't afford $1,000 hospital bill or what have you, and particularly with people who have like Daniel Blake in the film who paid their dues, and that's just like with veterans who serve. These are people who have contributed to society and should be compensated for their work, their sacrifice, and sometimes things that come with working on a job and the stress of putting 40 years in to the workforce and how that goes back into the community and feeds society. It's it was easy to not only find a connection with that, but with Daniel Blake, and because what you said, Lisa, and just the people in the film and the humanity and how he was easy to sympathize with, because he's extremely likable. The young lady, the mother, the single mom, is extremely likable. Daniel Blake's neighbors, the two kids.
Yeah.
There's a very real human element, and I've said on the podcast before, I'm a sucker for acts of kindness, and Daniel Blake seems like a genuinely kind person. In the midst of what's going on with him and his situation, and him trying to, make this work and find a job and trying to find treatment and healthcare, and how he's just being spat out of the machine, he still has it in him to be kind and do for others and treat others unlike how he's being treated by people he's coming up against in the system. And so I found that really endearing about the character. I really enjoyed the film. And that scene when you're talking about the single mom, Brad, and you saying that she's starving to death.
Goddamn.
When she's in the food bank and she just opens that can of food. Brutal. That just killed me. It
was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, you really do get the sense that this whole the whole system of taking care of people in need is based on, well, how much are you willing to humble yourself? How much are you willing to humiliate yourself?
What would have been interesting is to pair this film with My Life as a Zucchini.
Oh, God.
Right? Because they're both stories about an institution and how they handle the leftovers of society. And My Life as a Zucchini comes from a place of, we're all one family on this planet, and we're going to take care of each other. And there are glimpses of that, certainly in Daniel Blake, especially coming from Daniel Blake's character, because he rises up. But also
the women in the food bank.
I was going to say the food bank, that organization.
The food bank, and Anna at the dole.
Right.
She's the one sympathetic bureaucrat in the story.
But her hands are even still tied. And Daniel Blake still loses it with Anne. He says, he gets to the point where it's just like, I just don't have any self-respect anymore. I can't do this anymore.
And that's the other layer that I recognized and gravitated towards was also outside of my experiences within the VA and being a beneficiary of those things that are in place for veterans. I work in the healthcare system. So I work in a clinic that services active duty members and retirees, TRICARE beneficiaries. And when I go to work, I'm in Anna's seat. I'm in the position of the person saying, yes, I understand why you may have been late, but there are people who are here already. And if we put you in right now when you're demanding to be seen, that's going to push them back. And this next gentleman, I can't share why the next patient's here, but I can see why the reason for the appointments. And I can see that this next person has a pretty significant issue that has to get in. So I'm like, my hands are tied because I want to help. And a lot of times, unlike in Daniel Blake, we're able to work with the patient and find some middle ground so that most of the times they leave out of there satisfied. But at the same time, there's a system set up, and not just with appointment times, but why can't I be treated here? Well, because your TRICARE category changed yesterday, and I don't know why it's not showing in my system. I don't have access to your TRICARE information. You're going to have to contact the decision maker. You're going to have to contact TRICARE directly so that they can change it. But I don't, and it's older people, and it's older people.
Sure.
Like, well, you can go to the website. You can send them an email if you don't have a means to call them right now. Well, I don't have a computer, and so seeing a lot of what was in Daniel Blake is reminding me of my Monday through Friday, my 9 to 5.
Right, but I mean, like, it's wonderful that Anne can continue to be like this compassionate person, but you also see the other side. There's this woman named Sheila.
Yeah, yep.
And Sheila
is a total Sheila.
I think it just got to the point where she was dealing with frustrated people, desperate people all of the time, and she has clearly just become this human callous, zero compassion. She is so condescending, treating a grown man like an irresponsible teenager who can't get their shit together. And I can see that other side of, having to follow the rules to a T, where it can feel very hateful. I've
worked with Sheila. I've seen the person we get there at that job. We sign in at the same time. We come up through our orientation, our training together, and I see Sheila when she is, welcome to Andrew Rader Health Clinic. How may I help you? Or can I help you check in or what have you? And, your TRICARE category is different. Okay, well, hang on. Come over here. Let me write some numbers down to, give you a few places to call and a few options or whatever. I've seen Sheila be that way, and I've seen those patients and the frustration and, people bringing their problems to work and then Sheila's helplessness with the times that she can't do anything. I've seen that change her to the Sheila that's in Daniel Blake. Like, I've seen that. And that's the sad part about it is that, I don't know that character, but I know that not everybody comes to their job the first day is like that.
I just
sometimes
know
the system
that cannot be good for Sheila, Sheila's soul and Sheila's well-being.
Right, and that's the crazy part is that system not only affects people on both sides of the desk. It changes people on both sides of the desk.
There was one thing that I found maybe that I feel like was in the trailer that didn't quite come through in the movie, and where Daniel Blake does a radical act. He commits an act of vandalism, and he makes this strong statement. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wish there was more of that radical side of let's go back and let's confront the man.
Yeah. Well, that scene happens, and then it quickly
dissipates
up in the finale. I don't think we can really go any further, though. We've talked a lot about the human horror story of Daniel Blake. But the reason why we are affected so heavily is because Dave Johns as Daniel Blake is amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, all the supporting cast is really top notch, but he in particular, he's not the type of actor with this massive, I'll use the term CV to stay in the realm of Daniel Blake.
I figured it out. That's a resume. A CV is a resume.
Yeah. Correct,
all of this,
Lisa.
This British jibber jabber.
But if you go to his IMDb page, he only has 12 credits, right? And he comes onto this film and he feels like a fully formed actor. Yeah. I don't know anything about him. I'm guessing he's a theater guy. I don't know where Ken Loach found him, but he is really phenomenal, and he's the reason why everybody in this theater was as affected as they were.
Well, I mean, we spent so much time just watching a guy fill out a form, watching a guy be on the phone. A lot of the scenes were just extremely extraordinary.
And relatable.
But the stakes were so high. The stakes were so high the entire film.
So, without spoiling the ending, we know it's marching to, not sunshine and roses, right? I do want to talk about real quick, there's a moment towards the end where there's a split between Daniel Blake and, his newfound friendship of Katie, played by Haley Squires.
Also great.
And I don't want to say what that plot point is and why they've broken up, but in the last scene they're together again, and I felt like there is a moment missing from the movie, and I think the reason why the climax didn't necessarily work for me as well is because I was confused as to how they got back together again. There's the scene where her daughter Daisy comes up to the door and says, hey, you wanted to help us, now let us help you. But the fracture between Daniel Blake and Katie was so severe and over something so traumatic. I felt like that plot point had to have been addressed, and the film denies us that.
For me, I recognize that, but I think for me it worked, or I didn't have an issue with it is because that scene that you mentioned when the daughter goes to Daniel's house and she's talking to him through the mail slot, and she's saying things like, my mom misses you, she's been worried about you, and I think because of all the acts of kindness that Daniel was shown to give the mother and everything that he was been through with her, for me, I understand, well, of course you can't stay mad at that guy.
But Darren, you said at the end of this film you felt manipulated. It's because the film manipulates you when you cut to suddenly Daniel Blake and Katie arm in arm and everything is fine. It feels like a dream sequence. And the way that things are starting to turn around for him feels like a dream sequence, so much so that it's not going to play out properly.
When that lawyer's like, I got a really good feeling about this. I've never lost.
Yeah, and I think
every day I was like, oh shit, he's going to lose the case.
If we had that scene, if we had a reunion of those two, the ultimate tragedy of this story would have played better.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think that his neighbors should have helped him set up an Etsy store for his fish.
Honestly, I thought that was going to happen. I thought he was going to start selling his wood carvings when that guy's like, oh, I can get money for that.
I just,
But at the end of,
and he built a nice shelf. I'm like, that's a $40, $50.
That's probably the scene that
shelf.
Brad is talking about while he's helping him set it up. What happened to that single mother that you was helping out? You need to go patch things up with her. Let me call her over here.
Well, I think that, they were trying to imply, let's get back together for the kids kind of situation. Not that they were a couple, but they definitely became this family unit.
Yeah.
And I think that that it was supposed to be implied that he had become part of the family, and for better for worse, that's his family now.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Brad where it is abrupt, and plus Katie's story is left very open-ended, where you're just like, well, is her path this tragic path, or are things going to look up for her?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we all love Daniel Blake.
We did, and I think that even though this is a British system, that clearly Darren identifies with it, and anybody dealing with
Verizon, I know.
With Verizon,
bureaucracy is worldwide.
Our healthcare system, our benefits system, is really these structures are built to make it impossible for everybody to get what they need. And
what Brad mentioned earlier is the reason why even though we have our healthcare system, and Daniel Blake is going through that particular healthcare system.
It's not a healthcare system. It's a dole system.
I mean, the dole system. And in all the messed upness that comes with that, the reason why we haven't had the collapse of civilization is because of, organizations like that food bank and people like the people who work in the food bank, and then people like Daniel Blake who help those people out when they come from those offices, the dole offices, the VA offices, who they've just been shut out and not not been given help and assistance. There are people in the world there's going to always be people in the world who make sure that someone's okay, for better or for worse. And I think that, I think for me, that's one of the things that sticks out about the film that gives me hope is the fact that, again, those accidents, that lady taking the mom through and helping her shop and her just being kind to her, juxtaposed with Daniel Blake's assistance when he's going through his process, and the people are just, like you said, Sheila, shutting him out.
But I think part of the point of the movie is that is not enough. That is not enough. The kindness of others is not enough.
Well, there's always going to be a politician that's going to extort the kindness of humanity towards humanity to cut funding for things.
I just think that honestly, My Life as a Zucchini and Daniel Blake are telling a very similar story with two completely different outlooks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm ready to marathon those two movies. I'm ready to double bill that.
Double box of
we need
Kleenex.
What we would need to do 3 movies. So clearly we'll have to think of one more.
Well, you need a cathartic release. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wait, what? No.
Thumbs up from Billy. We're doing it.
All right. And the next film.
Welcome to your healthcare system. Fuck yourself in the face.
Our next film was actually the one that Idmon sponsored.
Yay!
Women Who Kill.
Yes. I thought this movie was like my kind of comedy. I thought it was so funny.
I was surprised at how funny I found the film.
We have to constantly thank Andy Geyerson, the programmer here at the Winchester, and Film Club 3.0 for inviting us into their house.
Yes.
To sponsor Women Who Kill. It really is a tremendous experience, certainly for our podcast group, and I'm just really extremely thankful, and it was great to stand up in front of that crowd and present such a unique movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it really is unique in that. Well, let's talk about what it's about. Firstly, there are two podcasters.
Morgan and Jean.
Ex-lovers.
Ex-lovers, yeah.
But they're still living together.
Yeah.
They're still roommates. Exes turned roommates.
Awkward. So you're just asking for complications. and you work together? Yeah. They're ex-lovers, and they have a podcast.
You'll notice Brian's not on this cast today.
He's right there. Working. He's working.
Yeah. And they have a podcast called Women Who Kill, and they interview female murderers, yeah,
and serial killers.
Yeah. And so Morgan, Morgan, she starts to date a new person, and the mystery begins as to whether or not this person that she's dating is herself, in fact, a murderer or a serial killer. And
because that's a normal thing to think about your new love.
Yeah. And so the comedy unfolds and ensues as we try to figure out is Morgan paranoid, or is Jean just being jealous that her ex is now moved on and seeing someone else?
Right, but it's also established that Morgan has some intimacy issues.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So at first Jean puts the seed in Morgan's head that, there are certain mysteries about this beautiful Simone lady.
Yeah.
And like she had another name at some point, and so she plants the seed that that Simone may be a murderer.
Yeah.
And then attacks Morgan when Morgan starts buying that story, going like, well, you're just trying to get out of this relationship because you're so close.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about the chemistry between Morgan and Jean, because they are two really funny ladies. And the way that they bicker is it just gets me. It's so good.
And the actor who plays Morgan, she She actually directed the film.
Yep.
I didn't know that until after
Yeah,
the fact.
Ingrid Jungerman.
So I wonder, did she write the film as
She
well?
did, yes.
Yes, she did.
So yeah, it's that comes through in the dialogue and their rapport and how they play off of each other.
It's really witty, fast-paced banter, like but with a lot of heart behind it. You can see a lot of the characters in it.
But it has like aside from one character, there's a character named Alex who's kind of like a keyed up person who, you know, she's into softball and meat and drinking, and she's kind of boisterous. But like Morgan and Jean are like so like laid back and chill all the time. The tone of this film is so like wackadoo because the way that they speak to each other is it's biting, but it's so measured. And then at the same time, like there's just like, is somebody going to get stabbed? Is somebody going to turn up, you know, in a dumpster somewhere?
Yeah. So, you seemed and still do seem really enthused about the film, but when the film went off, you had some questions.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, there is this whole mystery set up in the film, and to me, the mystery kind of ended open-ended, which I thought kind of defeated the message of the movie.
Did it? Expand on that, please.
Okay.
I would like to know, because
Well,
I was having the same conversation last night with Danielle.
I don't want to spoil it too much, but
should.
It should be like either Simone is a murderer or she, like decidedly is, or she decidedly is not, because it's this exploration of Morgan and is she becoming paranoid because she thinks about murder 100% of the time, and has that somehow warped her brain? Plus, is this just an excuse for her to get back with Jean? You know, so it really is not a story about is Simone a murderer or not. It's a story about is Morgan crazy or not. And so to me, like, so the climax of the film would seem that it's pointing to one story, but then there is just one piece of evidence that is like nobody's like, but what's that doing there? Or but it's just like sitting there out in the open, and you're going like, well, why is that there? So to me, I think that it muddles the message of the film. It's just not clean.
I would be curious on a rewatch, knowing how the pieces fall together, or at least having an idea of how the pieces fall together, if we can work out that ending.
It's definitely a movie I'm going to want to watch again. I'm going to want to watch it again and laugh at it again.
I think the answers are there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was another advanced release, so I'm not sure exactly.
I think April the 15th.
April 15th? Okay, cool.
Indie dork on it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I could have just made that up.
Mod Love.
I don't trust you.
They can Google it. We don't have to be factual when the internet exists.
Yeah. But yeah, when it does come out, definitely check that out. We'll be watching it again, because I too need answers as to why that thing was where it was when it was. But yeah, we enjoyed it.
Then what's the point?
Well, I thought the whole movie was about communication and the fact that she
that's
could.
Definitely true too.
Well, but I think that's why the ending is like it is because she's struggling with the lesson of communication and the ability to ask direct questions and share her concerns with another person. And if that piece of evidence, right, if that thing is there for one reason,
there's no explainable reason for that to be up there.
I think it's heightened. I think it's heightened. I think that there's
that's true,
it's a heightened reality of a presence of a thing, and she could. So, fuck. You can't. I can't. I don't. No, I don't want to spoil the ending of the movie.
Me and Billy, we're going to discuss this later.
Yes, I would.
Mic,
yeah,
because I'm going to tell him that I'm right, and he's going to believe me.
Always, you are right.
Yeah.
I just
because I'm louder.
Hey, I'm her husband.
Husband dork.
I seriously enjoyed it. I think the chemistry was what I pulled away from the most. Is that a sentence? I'm on day 4 here, people.
Yeah. I love the fact that it was an entire cast of women. There was like one dude in the film.
Oh, Jackson.
He was so great. Jackson is so great.
And he was
Swiffers for comfort.
He was clearly a really sweet dude. who was kind of being taken advantage of. But it was an entire cast of really funny women.
Mm-hmm.
You know who was criminally underutilized from my point of view?
Yeah.
I think she fills her role, but Annette O'Toole.
Holy shit, she's so
Lila.
good.
I wanted a whole movie of her character.
Yeah, I was kind of like at first because instead of having a trailer for this film, we got to watch that opening scene, and that opening scene so funny, so creepy.
Yeah. She is so great.
I was kind of hoping there was going to be a little bit like that was what the story was about, this interaction with Lila.
There are not many aspects to Superman 3 that I can claim as a thumbs up, but I always felt that when Clark Kent returned to Smallville, the fact that he didn't dump Lois Lane for Lana was a tragic mistake.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, check it out when it comes out. We'll be watching it again. Now the next film.
Oh my gosh!
This one. Well, I haven't looked at the.
Take it away, Darren.
This one is Johnny Toe's latest 3.
Lisa's
Why
favorite
was it
film.
called 3?
I was going to say, speaking of mysteries.
Well, if you look at the poster, it highlights the 3 quotes main end quotes characters: the doctor, the criminal, and the cop.
Yeah.
Except this film has 300 characters.
Yeah. So, what were your thoughts on 3?
No, Darren.
What?
I thought it was boring.
Yeah.
There are certain things that are in. Where is this movie from?
Hong Kong.
There is this, like, I hate the trope of the fat, clumsy guy and the mentally ill person. There's one, like, I don't know. I just think that they're not funny anymore, and they seem to be in every Asian movie.
So many
and it
stroke
makes me-
victims for comedic relief.
Oh, God. It made me so sad. It just made me sad. I felt sad.
Yeah, Sam Lewitt, the guy who you're calling, you're referring to, the fat guy who
'Cause
in the
he's-
film is
I'm
referred.
not that- I'm not being a
hold on,
judgmental person.
hold on, but who in the film is referred to as fatty? I guess in his defense, that's his name in every movie he plays.
Oh shit!
That might be his defense, but is that the?
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm just saying that in every movie he's in, that's his name.
But I just
It's weird.
Like just teasing someone, like to me, like going like, you know, like him walking in with 2 bags of fast food and him like clearly the 2 bags of fast food are for him and then he's like openly shamed, or the way he gets stabbed in the butt, because being stabbed in the butt when you're fat is not tragic. It's hilarious. You know, it sickens me.
In his defense there, Lisa, one of those bags held a gun because they were going to plant some fingerprints on it.
Yes, that's
That's
true.
forward-thinking police detecting.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Fatty knows what's up.
The film also stars Louis Koo and Zhao Wei, who she was in Shaolin Soccer.
That's where I recognized her
So Close. She's been in a lot of stuff. She's only 36 years old. What the hell? I'm sorry, 39 maybe. But she's been around forever. And Louis Koo.
Not that forever.
But also in Hong Kong movies.
I'm just
she's
saying
done,
I'm 38.
Hundreds of films.
I've
But
been around
you've done
forever.
hundreds of films.
Stop reminding me that I haven't. I've done one movie.
It also stars Louis Koo, who was in Johnny Toe's Drug War, if I'm not mistaken. And he was in Storm Rider. So he's been in a lot of stuff, too.
You know, it's interesting, though. I was expecting a lot more action in this movie, and it's all build-up. It's an insane amount of build-up.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with Johnny Toe. Like, he's not known for copious amounts of action. He might have 1 or 2 action scenes in his films, but they're just so stylized.
But I do think that they're like the grain of the plot is interesting. So the plot of the story is there is a prisoner. There is this surgeon, and she has, gotten very far in her career for her age, and she works herself a little bit too hard and has a very high expectation for herself. She's very uptight and strict, but that's like her thing. And then a prisoner is brought to the hospital, and he has a bullet lodged in his brain, and he refuses to go into surgery to have the bullet removed because there seems to be a little bit of foul play on the part of the policeman that they're trying to cover up. So so the idea is that it's supposed to be this tense situation of how, like, is the prisoner going to die of the bullet in his brain before this is resolved? Are the police going to be able to, what did the police do, and are they going to be able to cover it up in time, or is this going to blow up in their face? So there are a lot of these, like, active elements, but I think that they're distracted by the fact that, you know, there's one guy where the joke is he's mentally ill and childlike and he's eating all the time, and that's supposed to be hilarious. And there are, you know, there's this one
suicidal
dude whose surgery has not worked out the way that he thought he would, and he wants to, like, and he's just, like, losing his mind. And I don't know. To me, the tone of it was just...
Well, I mean, that's kind of in keeping with the style of Hong Kong action cinema. And, you know, as Darren said, they find things funny that we might find not cool in our PC environment.
But I just think that this could have been a pressure cooker.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, Lisa, I was anticipating the climax. Once I realized that this is actually an entire runtime of tension and build, you know, it's the bomb in the trunk of Touch of Evil, right? It's that opening scene where you're just waiting for this thing to explode. The problem is when it explodes. For me, I thought the action was incredibly disappointing.
Oh, laughable! It was what it was.
Yeah. I definitely wasn't impressed.
But I think there could have been an interesting film. Like I could. This is a film that I could argue a remake for.
But would it be a Johnny To movie if they remade it?
Well, I think what we're finding out, at least for Lisa and myself and maybe a few other people at this table, that we're not Johnny To fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did kind of like the idea of the prisoner. I thought that he was, like, charismatic, and he had, like, he had the Hippocratic Oath memorized. He was, like,
and that was that's a cool scene.
Yeah.
That's a cool scene.
I thought all of that, I thought as a villain he was, like, very interesting.
I love the idea of a guy who has a bullet lodged in his brain for the entirety of the movie, like reciting from memory the Geneva Convention, the Hippocratic Oath.
I was wondering if, like, the bullet had, like, tapped into, like, some kind of, like, autism spectrum-y thing. Yeah. But I don't know.
So it was not a win for Itmod, but I think
there's a Boston Legal episode that is similar to this that I think is way better.
There's apparently another Boston Legal episode to be had from this episode, too.
Yeah.
So, okay, that was Johnny To's 3.
And then the final film of the evening was The Lure.
Which I left for.
Yeah.
So I did not see The Lure.
Which was
Maybe Brian can take my mic then.
Brian left too.
Nope, he does not want this.
He also left, Lisa, but he was physically here. But
he is quite the Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Aw.
So this is the first musical to come out of Poland.
Yeah.
Ever.
Is that true?
Really? That is dead true.
Huh.
Really?
Yep, and it's certainly the first.
How the fuck did they do that then? That was awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's the first musical about lesbian cannibal mermaids to come out of Earth.
I didn't know that was a genre that I needed in my life, but I do.
Bring it. I really enjoyed this film from a midnight movie point of view.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. It's not supposed to be for everybody. But if you have always dreamed of seeing a mermaid, punk rock her way into some dude's heart, and then rip his throat out and eat him savagely,
then this movie's for you.
The Lure is it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what's a more apt metaphor for love than that. I mean, come on.
So you dug it, Billy?
Oh, shit, yeah. All of the, the third act of the movie, it gets away from the musical numbers, the like the rock and roll fantasy scenes that they do, like the Siren's Lure, but they're singing punk synth rock shit, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
Because every time that was happening, I was all over it.
Yeah, I think the music actually really worked in the movie. I think there are some drag points to the film, actually, when the music drops out.
Well, no, that's what I think it is. Because they're not. I mean, they're musical numbers. They're not just like it's not like I dug the soundtrack of the movie that there's stuff going on in the background. I mean, they're
this
like
is full
sirens
singing in the rain.
Yeah. and they're singing. They're going through these really big, like, dense kind of production numbers, and it's all stylized, and it's going through the different styles of genres of music, that sort of thing. It's beautiful when they're doing that. I loved it.
I dug it. I just didn't. Wait, did I miss anything?
Hey, Scott.
I love the ending. Yeah. I love the ending of it. It was the earlier part of the film. I wasn't too sure if I was keen on it or not. But the last act of that film, I found myself surprised by being moved by what happens to the main characters, and I was like, huh.
And I thought the performances from those main characters were really strong. Yeah. I liked all the oddball characters on the side. Yeah. I loved the club. I loved the club owner. What a skeezy scumbag.
Yeah. The family band, right? I mean, they're like a nuclear family, and the two sisters join
the dad.
up. Yeah.
Well, we have Scott here. We're talking the lure, Scott. Do you have any thoughts about the lure? You can... Is that mic on?
Let's find out.
Now, yeah. I think so.
Okay. Yeah, what's your thoughts about the lure?
I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Definitely some neat music in there. Good, interesting take on sort of the Hans Christian Andersen kind of mermaid tale.
Is this going to inspire some cosplay for you and Tara? Maybe you're going to bust out your tails and your teeth, right? There's teeth.
Yeah, there's definitely teeth
those
in there.
Those mermaid tails.
Those were some interesting mermaid tails. Yeah. I'm not quite sure.
Lot of attention to anatomical details being added to those mermaid tails.
Oh.
Holy shit.
I've always wanted to lick a fin.
There are some dreams that are just not going to come true.
Gotta go to the seafood department of Giant.
Ooh, nice. Sorry.
It's okay.
Edit that out. And by edit that out, I mean actually just forget it, listeners. Was the last thing I said.
All right.
You guys edit
So
it out.
I'm really happy for Scott, because usually in Lost Weekend, the Saturday midnight movie infuriates this guy.
Really?
Last year it was Victoria.
Victoria. The Neon Demon was Neon Demon was the last one, and Victoria before that. Yeah, and it's a drag to get through those. It's waiting for them to end.
You were dreading the lure, and we were walking back to the hotel across the parking lot, and Scott says to me, "The streak is over. Midnight movie I actually liked." And the crazy thing is, though, I think there are 3 people in this entire theater that actually enjoyed the lure, because the rest of the crowd was not into it.
Really?
No, it did not seem to go over well. And Leora came up to me as she was walking out, and as soon as the credits rolled, I hop on the letterbox, throw my review on there. She brads, and Leora walks up and goes, "How could you give that a 3?"
Well,
3.5. Actually,
I was
gave
cruising the 3.0 Facebook page, and Andy's like, "I think I'm ready to just show the lure again," and a bunch of people from our row were like, "No."
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, what people enjoy is very different. Things that I tend to loathe. I mean, seems to be things that Billy loves.
The Bad Batch. It was awful and mean and gross, and I loved it.
Ditto.
Well, and the Bad Batch, there were parts of it I really enjoyed, but as a whole, it just seemed like it didn't get there for me. It definitely was not Victoria, where I just couldn't stand it from beginning to end. But there were just felt like there wasn't a full cohesive.
But in fairness, the lore is legitimately weird as fuck. It's really, really fun, but you're either going to hate it or you're going to be 100% on board with it.
Yeah.
All right, and so that is our day 3. For day 4, coming up, we have contemporary color. The Color Guard movie.
Yay! You guys know that I was in Color Guard in high school. I did 2 seasons of Fall Guard.
Yep. And then we have Like Crazy.
That was horrible.
And then Tampopo. That's when I'm going to order the noodles. And then we have
Personal Shopper in place of the Young Offenders.
Yep.
I learned that you're not supposed to drink all of the ramen broth. Were you the one who told me that? I did not know that.
No.
And when I tasted it, I did drink all the ramen broth, and my contacts fell out. I was so dehydrated.
Day. Oh, and then the girl with all the gifts.
Yes, that's our final film. Yep. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
I'm Santa's delight. last day. I'm not enjoying my burrito. I'm already getting sad.
No, keep eating it. So yeah, thank you all for listening. For all things Lost Weekend 7, stay tuned to the ItMod Twitter page and Instagram and
Not my
Facebook.
Twitter though.
No, just at
tweeted
ItModcast.
Fuck all.
Yeah, just at ItModcast. And stop by our Letterbox to check our reviews of the films at Mouthdork. You're at Mouthdork.
Yeah, I'm at
Letterboxd.
Mouthdork.
I'm at Disco Dork on Letterbox, at Sidewalk Siren, and at the Turtle Dork. Is he? I don't think he's doing his Letterbox.
No, but everybody in this theater is. It's been a blast communing with everyone on Letterboxd to see how people react to different movies, like The Lure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. We got some more movies to watch, and then we'll put up a mini recap of those as well. So that's going to do it for us. Hope you all are enjoying your weekend because we are enjoying our Lost Weekend. Thank you all for listening, and until next time.